That's your Hey, everybody!
Hello.
Looks like we got connected. What's up? Hive Live in the house, Saturday night, Portland, Maine. I just got done doing a workshop in this amazing space that we are in right now called Roots and Fruits Preschool and One Tree Center. We're going to talk about that tonight. Welcome back. We're really happy to see you. Happy to be here with Gina Forbes, friend and colleague, educator, doula.
A lot of things. I wear a lot of hats. Somatic practitioner.
Somatic practitioner
Yeah.
and mama magic maker. And I'm just like super psyched. Thanks for being on Hive Live.
I'm so happy to be here. It's nice to be in my own space too, where I am every day in my classroom. So I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah, we're like literally in our classroom.
Yeah, those are the vocab words that we're working on right now.
Trip trap, bridge, troll. We know a lot about that these days on the internet.
Yeah, actually, maybe we'll talk about this later, but we're doing an amazing project right now with rewriting the 3 Billy Goats graph.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
yeah, we'll
Great.
get to it.
Yeah,
we'll get to it.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So before we get into your work, maybe just tell us a little bit about who you are. Like, just give us a little bit.
Great.
Yeah, that's not about your work, but it's about your personhood.
Great. Gina. I am, well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my work because it really is connected to who I am.
Great.
So,
Awesome.
I work with kiddos here at Roots and Fruits Preschool, and I have my own kid who's 8 years old. He's awesome. Being a parent is a big part of my identity. And I'm a yogi, I'm a reader, I'm a curious human being on this planet. And yeah, I mean, I guess I'm studying Somatic Experiencing right now, and I'm also at Goddard College getting my master's in early childhood education. So all really fun things to kind of be thinking about in my life right now.
That's a full life.
Yeah, it is a full life.
Yeah, so you spend your days with little people.
I do, yeah. I
Yeah.
spend my days with little people. I work with 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And a long time ago, I was a doula, so I worked with parents and young kids. But I'm really passionate about 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. I have so much fun with them. They keep me real. We play all the time. So it's a lot of fun. And then I hang out with my kid after I get done with work and hang out with his friends. And so I think kids keep me really present and in my body and really real.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great. So some people out there who have been watching the interviews know that the Hive Live is about the intersection between healing and transformation and social justice. And that's part of what I'm trying to bring on, people that are doing really innovative work, doing really exciting work. And I personally think the work that's happening here at this school is phenomenal. But I'd love it, like, in your own words, like, what do you think me being here interviewing you has to do with healing? You know, and you know, as a somatic practitioner, and like, I mean, I know what's important to me, but I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about, like, why is it important to intersect education, early education, and talk about whether it's somatics or healing or any of that?
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm really personally interested in sort of like social justice-based education and education for liberation. So as an educator, you know, educators aren't neutral. We come to the table teaching kids things that we embody, things that we know. And so for me personally, when I'm doing work with kids as a parent or as an educator, I want to be really living and modeling my fullest capacity to be a loving human being on this planet, and to teach kids peace, to teach kids love, and to teach kids justice. And I think in a lot of ways they actually already know it, and we're the ones learning it or unlearning it, unlearning things that get in the way of that. So coming to Roots and Fruits Preschool has been like pretty amazing because this is a place that was founded by Virginia Durrani, who you also know.
What's up, Virginia?
Hey, if you're watching or later.
Yeah.
She's been a huge mentor to me in understanding her pedagogy called radical love.
Radical love.
Radical love. And I think those words, you can say radical love and you can like Google them, and they have, I mean, maybe people like have things that come to mind. But what's really cool about this place and the work that I'm trying to embody is that radical love is not just this like gushy idea of we all love each other, but it actually comes with these principles that we are called to really apply in our day-to-day life. So, and I believe in them wholeheartedly. So each letter of radical love stands for something.
I know,
and
hold on, I'm just going to
we,
show
like,
you
do
guys.
that?
Yeah, check this out, y'all. So, look at this, y'all. This is like, I don't do this very often, but I think it's kind of cool to see. This is what their big room looks like, and each letter represents something. So we'll just take a look at O. Oh my God, this is hilarious. I'm doing this terribly. And O means openness, right? So we're going to talk now. Thanks for hanging with us. This is such a cool place. Talk a little bit about like one of the principles of radical love, or how you guys are thinking about that.
Well, I don't want to talk about just one. They're all so good.
All right.
But, well, can I tell the folks what each of them are?
Sure.
Great. So let's do this. So art is revolution. So you can think about how the world revolves and things are constantly moving and changing. You can also think about revolution, just even where we're at now, like healing for revolution, for change, for like forward moving, beautiful spirals moving forward.
Can I just like pause you here and say like, so R is for revolution, healing spirals, and like, I think there's a lot of people out there that's like, well, how is this how do children understand revolution? Now, of course, I feel like I kind of got that, but like, is this like, you can use a word like revolution with kids?
Absolutely. So there's like a bunch of different ways to know things too, right? Which is also what I'm interested in, of like how we know things in our body, how we know things in our mind, how those two things are connected. So like, for example, revolution was actually something we talked a lot about in the classroom last year because we made a radical love obstacle course. And so one of the things my kids really loved to do was to spin around in circles and to spin and jump and to kind of play with this idea of spinning. And we reflected that idea of spinning and turning with our bodies by talking about turning it around. And what does it mean to turn it around? So we use the language here at Roots and Fruits that if a kid's not making a good choice, we'll say, hey, let's stop right now and think about what you need to do to turn it around. And that's a revolution. And so we give the kids tools to stop and slow down and to make good choices and to turn it around.
We need a little bit of that turn it around revolution education.
I think radical love is like what this planet needs. And I am like just so deeply humbled by working with Virginia, and I work with co-teachers here that are all like on our journey to embody radical love.
Right, to embody it.
Embody
and to
it.
help kids, to let them help us learn how to do that.
Well, kids know when you're not present too. Like kids know, kids like, they look to grown-ups in their life, their caretakers, their parents, people that they trust to kind of like set the tone, and sometimes it's consciously and sometimes it's just in attunement with another human being near them. So I don't have to say anything, and when I come in the morning, the kids know how I'm doing. They just pick it up, they feel it, they know it. And I think sometimes as grown-ups, those are just things like we lose that in touchness with that kind of sense and maybe overthink things or whatever. But kids really, for me, it's just so powerful to walk in and like a kid will come up to me and be like, can I give you a hug today? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, yeah, you need to turn it around today. And I'm like, okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right, it goes both ways.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
And so, I think part of that, like teaching for liberation and teaching for social justice, is also empowering kiddos that grown-ups make mistakes all the time too, and that they have the power. They have the power to give a message or to give a tool or to give a reminder and help grown-ups turn it around.
Yeah, and that's not something that I grew up with or we grew up with in our time. It was kind of like kids listen to adults and the adults are the experts and, the adults are the disciplinarians. And what you're talking about is a collaborative relationship that really honors the power of, you know, each person, and
Absolutely.
like really empowers kids to be in equal relationship with you.
Absolutely.
Within parameters, of course, of, you know.
Safety. And, yeah, of course,
cool.
you know.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so R for revolution.
A for altruism.
Okay, A for altruism.
Kindness.
Kindness.
Kindness. It's so simple, but sometimes it's so hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is a kind choice to make each day?
God, what is a kind choice? I mean,
What
it's
is a
like,
kind
you think
choice?
like, oh, that's so obvious. Like, don't we know what, you know, like a kind choice? But if we're watching right now on the world stage, like, there's just such a lack of kindness. It's mind blowing.
There is a lack of kindness. There's a huge lack of kindness. And it is so simple, and why is it so hard?
Yeah.
So, you know, ask yourself that question.
Yeah.
Ask yourself that question.
Totally. Yeah. Especially when it's hard, right? I mean, kindness is actually not super hard for me. And then once in a while, it's very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's hard for all of us in those moments where we're fueled by fear or sadness or anger or whatnot. We all have big emotions that we need to be with, but part of what I'm interested in is giving kids and their grown-ups tools to sort of contain those big feelings and be with them and really feel them, but then also have capacity to think about acting out of choice rather than out of like instinct based on some of those harder, bigger emotions.
and there's a somatic embodied aspect to that, right? Because,
Absolutely.
you know, sometimes contraction and fears can be such a physical experience. You know, all for adults, I mean, we're a little bit more conditioned to kind of, I don't know, kind of
Override
not hit somebody
Yeah, right.
necessarily, right? Override for sure. And so it must be really amazing to work with the nervous systems of little people to be able to help them understand, like maybe a physical impulsivity, to be able to turn that into choice.
Absolutely.
Versus just a reaction, right? And as adults, of course, too.
Well, and just like thinking about ways in which they can remain connected to those very embodied emotions and not shut them down, but find healthy outlets for them. And again, like a lot of these things are so simple, but I didn't always get that growing up. I think we're evolving collectively. And so, yeah.
Totally. Great. So revolution, altruism. D is for
Dialogue.
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 Which is what we're having right now.
We're having it right
Yeah,
now.
look at that. We got a little like for that one.
It's been on my mind. Dialogue's been on my mind a lot lately because it's easy to talk to folks who maybe share the same perspective, and it's a little bit harder to talk to folks that maybe don't have the same perspective. So I'm just thinking a lot about it too within like the political framework of what's happening and how to embody dialogue in a way that I'm held accountable, which is another one of the radical left principles, that I'm held accountable to my own values, but also stay open to hearing where other people's journeys have taken them.
Which is such a deep practice right now, especially for the folks who we don't necessarily agree with.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tricky. And yeah, my own personal awareness of like my like embodied reactions of like just the fight flight response when things get triggering and get hard to hear. It's like having some tools through somatic experiencing and whatnot has really helped me just be aware of what my triggers are so I can really deeply listen to another.
And do you teach the kids about like those reactions, like fight flight stuff?
In ways that they can understand.
Of course.
Yeah.
Cool.
Totally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So RAD, rad.
Intention.
Intention.
So, I don't know. Intention. Like,
Yeah.
you have to set an intention. You don't have to, but part of acting out of love in the world, I think, is setting your intention and being able to commit to it, which is the C after the I. So I think a lot of the times the I and the C kind of go together because you can intend something, but you also have to commit to the practical application of that. And some of the times, like, radical love is really practical and mundane. It's about the choices that we make, like, in our day-to-day lives. So I think a lot of, I don't know, like, people want to go right to this sort of like beauty of these kind of ideas, but when it comes down to actually making a commitment in your day-to-day life to stick with something that's really freaking hard, that's, you know, that's where it really, that's where the work is, I think.
And I wonder if we can like pause there, because I feel like this school here does so many things so intentionally that a lot of other schools don't. And you all, what I have watched the school do is stick with those things to create an environment that's safe and nurturing and nourishing for so many different people from different walks of life, from different economic backgrounds. And I was just wondering, like, could you maybe share an example of what's one thing that happens here that probably doesn't happen in a lot of other preschools that's like all about intention?
Well, we kind of like set the intention every single day here. And these are things that I just want to like give shout outs to all the folks who have worked on building the practices of this building. Like, it's not me that's you know, doing it, but we come in and together as a team we sit in circle time every morning, which happens at a lot of schools, like a lot of preschools. If your kids, if you know folks who are little, they go to preschool or they go to a place and they sit down in a circle, and you know, we do the calendar and we do the job board and we do all these sorts of kind of typical things. But then every day we close the circle by smudging the 4 directions, north, east, south, west, and Father Sky and Mother Earth. And then we send love like all around the community and to different elements on the planet. And then the kids like to chime in and say, today we're sending love to my mom because she's not feeling good, or today we're sending love to, you know, so-and-so because they're having a hard time. And so every single day the kids like start out their day with this intention of like respecting Mother Earth, of sending love to the community, of sending love to each other, and then they each get smudged in the circle and we listen to a song together, and the song is called When Eyes Meet. And so my co-teacher will often say, okay, remember, the name of this song is When Eyes Meet, so you can look around the room and look at each other, and it's just so beautiful to watch. So that's, you know, and that just happens every single day. So
right, like sets the tone around
the tone.
Connectivity.
Yep.
Around seeing each other.
Yep. Around
having some sort of agency over even setting an intention for the day, around a connection to something bigger than yourself. It's really beautiful every day.
It's really beautiful.
That's...
And the teachers are held to that too. We do that with each other and with the kiddos too. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. See, right?
That was commitment.
Commitment.
Then the other A is accountability.
So intention, commitment,
accountability.
Yep.
I think wow, I just love all these actually. I think accountability is also huge. And the question that I have for myself, and maybe for some of you, that I always am thinking about is, how do we hold each other accountable in firm but loving ways?
Oh, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be tricky to speak truth when it's hard to hear.
Yeah.
To tell people what you really see that may be challenging to them and their being. And also, I think it's really important to come to accountability with like an understanding of the holistic context of the person. So like, I think of it as sort of like restorative justice. Like, you want to be aware of like why a behavior is happening and then fix the root, and not be talking about, you know, this person is bad, or thinking and embodying this person is bad.
Right, you're like
so
having the understanding that the behavior came from somewhere
Exactly.
deeper.
Yeah.
And maybe a hurt or
Yeah.
something that happened to them. So it's like having a contextual understanding.
A contextual and holistic understanding of the whole being.
Right, which is such a deep, amazing quality of accountability that's so different than what we're used to.
Yeah, I often find myself wanting to, like, sometimes I want to like jump at something, or I get like riled up about something. I'm like, oh, this is so frustrating. I gotta go, you know, like I want to go deal with this. And then sometimes I just need to, like, accountability, I think, also embodies like that deep listening of like listening, like what is actually happening here, and holding myself accountable in that same way, like what is really happening when I'm not living up to my intention and my commitment.
And so obviously you're working with the kids around learning about those concepts and helping to hold each other accountable with between the kids.
Oh yeah. And there's, at this age, there's a fine line between holding each other accountable and then some of them start to think they can tell us every single thing that the other kids are doing. So we're like, let's talk about what may be like unnecessary telling of behavior and what is like actually supporting someone to make a good choice.
I mean, the fact that you're having those conversations in such a loving, thoughtful way, you know, and I mean, just talking about like, right, so part of the somatic background is just like the neuro pathways that are getting like really infused with not only love, but like these tools that are creating choices and creating some really amazing choices around having, I don't know, just like having different possibilities than what we're used to, which is right and wrong.
Yeah, Virginia has been talking a lot lately, and I've been talking with her about sort of breaking down like dualities. And actually she's having a workshop, I think, next weekend.
That's right.
That's gonna kind of go into that a little bit more too. And I think that's also an incredible tool to have, to go beyond sort of dualistic thinking into the recognition that we all come from different walks of life and have different perspectives that all may be true simultaneously, and just being able to have capacity to sit with that.
Beautiful. And build that capacity to sit with that.
And build that capacity.
Yeah, deep listening and
absolutely
holding the bigger picture, and then what can happen differently then versus getting into some sort of contractive right and wrong. Beautiful.
Yeah.
L.
Liberty.
Liberty.
Freedom, liberation.
Just that.
Yeah, just that. No big deal.
Such a small thing these days.
Yeah, I think it's a human right. So I don't know that I need to say more about that.
Okay, all right. So that's radical.
That's radical. Learning is the next L. So, you know, I think part of my practice as an educator and as a somatic practitioner and just really as a human is like staying humble and being authentic and just being able to say like, I'm learning this thing right now. You know, I'm in a process, and yeah, I think that can go a long way actually for creating safe spaces for connecting authentically with other human beings and moving past some of that dualistic thinking actually.
You know, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I've actually spent the day in this room working with a whole big group of people on helping professionals on how to create safer spaces in your treatment spaces or in your classes or whatever. And one of the things we talked a lot about, like last night, which seems like a month ago, was about agreements and the agreements we wanted to make. And, you know, there's a lot of energy that comes up, especially around anti-oppression work, around making a mistake. It's like being in a learning environment where you're here to sort of learn how to unpack power and privilege and these ideas that are super loaded, especially as adults who got conditioned so much into a system where there's you know, distribution inequitably of power. People, it's just the nervous system is pretty tight around that.
Yeah.
And we had some really good discussions about that. Like, it's not about not making mistakes, but it's about that mistakes are actually evolution, and like thinking about full permission to, like, because if you're so worried about making a mistake, you actually stop learning, because you're filtering yourself, you're in a contraction, and that being able to create an environment where it's actually expected, the more mistakes you make in ways is actually the better, you know, because there's these opportunities to be like, oh, part of oppression is blind spots, and like, oh, I haven't seen that before.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. If I didn't act like, if I was worried about making mistakes, then I would never take action, I guess. So it's one of those things where, like, I recognize and honor that mistakes I have made and can have an impact on other people and hurt them. But I also really feel like the collective we as like a culture needs to think a little bit more about like a call-in culture versus a call-out culture.
Can you just say what that is? We talked about that. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you my understanding of it.
Great.
Like, a call-out culture seems to me that, like, if someone makes a mistake, there's a process that sort of happens where there's like a correction, but I think about it in more of a way that isolates the person or others the person, and maybe involves some like shaming or something. When I think about call-in, I think about sort of, again, like embodying more of like a restorative justice model of like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't a good choice, and let's talk about like why that choice or why that thing you said or why that whatever didn't feel good or wasn't right, and let's bring you deeper into the community by actually like sharing ideas and processing maybe through dialogue and talking about the intention behind things of like how we can work on this and make it right for next time. So it's a little bit more about like a connection-based approach to righting a wrong.
It's so beautiful. I think we really want to be exploring that more in all the social movement spaces and all the dialogues, because I think we can't afford to be living in a call-out culture anymore.
I agree.
Yeah.
We all need each other right now.
Yeah. And to learn some new tools and capacities around that everybody's going to mess up, everybody's going to say the wrong thing, I'm going to get hurt, I'm going to be offended, and how do we build capacity to be able to hang with that in a more transformational way.
Absolutely.
You know, and not to say that sometimes you just got to go, and sometimes it's just going to be an explosion, and of course for good reason, but I think there's a lot of strength building we can do.
Yeah, and then if the collective community or whatever space you're working in has an understanding of the nervous system, and that when folks get triggered, there's a fight or flight response, then you build capacity within the group to honor when someone needs to go have a little explosion off in the corner, and then you can re-welcome in once that energy is dissipated.
Brilliant.
So it's, you know.
That's so great. I love that you just named that. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Having an understanding within the organization or work, of the nervous system that fight flight is it's an unconscious reaction, and
it's human.
And it's actually 400 million years old.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's going to happen, and how to understand what that looks like and how to support it, but not in a way so that it creates disconnection, but that the circle's broadened, the capacity's broadened to be able to hold it and then integrate it back in.
Yeah, I think that this is like really an interesting thing, because I'm interested too in like, what are the tools that we need as like collective groups to actually do that work.
Yeah.
So I don't have all the answers, but that's definitely something I'm exploring in my life right now.
Well, you and I have that in common, and I bet you the folks watching do too.
I hope so.
And I imagine working with kids is giving you a lot of opportunity to play and practice and experiment with that.
I mean, like, I've just been, I've learned since the day I stepped into this building, and of course before too, but this place is definitely special in terms of like just talking to kids about their behaviors and creating the community connection. And sometimes I just think like everyone needs to go to preschool. Like for the first 2 years that I was here, I was like, I'm really the one going to preschool. These kids don't know. I'm their teacher, but I'm in preschool. And I kind of like bring some of those elements to other spaces that I go in. Like I've worked a little bit at Goddard planning residencies and thinking about how do we create like stronger connections in our community at Goddard. And I'm like, let's do circle time.
Let's do circle time.
Let's just circle it up. Let's go.
Totally.
Let's send toast to the ancestors and smudge and like whatever else, we
were just here, like, just like, I don't know, 4 hours ago, and we were like, somebody was just like, what if we had all gone here? Like, what if we, we were sitting in circle in the big room over here, and somebody's like, what if we, like, who would we be right now? First of all, we wouldn't be talking about creating safer spaces because we would have learned it in preschool, but we all just sort of like had this dumbfounded awe look on our face, like, oh my God, like if we had been in this infusion of love and thoughtfulness and care and tools to live in a world in a non-dualistic way, like, whoa. So anyways, we're doing the work now and we're doing the best we can, and what's so great is that you guys are doing this work and learning about how to create these conditions for kids, and what a critical time to be able to get this type of attunement and, I don't know, amplification of spirit going on. All right, so we are on O.
Oh. We're on O?
Oh yeah, we did. I showed it already.
Openness. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We just kind of talked about that too, right?
Yeah,
like
totally.
Having an openness when there's so many ways to be open.
Yeah.
I love this one. I think openness, like when I think openness, I think liberty, I think space, I think freedom, I think of just like beautiful openness. So
you know what I think of too, in addition to that, with openness, is I think safety. And I think
you have to have that to be open.
Yeah, and
definitely.
Like how do we, obviously I've been talking about it all day, but what are the things we can do to create safe spaces for all types of people? Because without that ground of relative safety anyways, openness can flourish in that.
So what'd you learn? Tell me one thing.
Whoa, I love it!
Flipping the interview. I'm just
great.
curious, like I feel like what's like one thing about creating safe spaces that people need to know?
Yeah, good question. Well, one thing I learned about is how to get comfortable talking about privilege before you're, like, being able to sort of learn how to talk about the identities that you have that are more in the privileged groups and the identities that you have that are in the less privileged groups, and just getting comfortable talking about it, because so many of us have so much contraction even talking about it. There's so much shame, there's so much guilt, there's so many feelings that come up. And that part of what I learned actually this weekend is just how nourishing and growthful and how much energy is available when we start to loosen up on that contraction and we actually just start to talk about things that are charged and difficult, and how much there is to learn about how to share power differently, and to think about, as a person maybe in a white body, like how to have conversations about how to create space for people of color, and if I'm in a treatment space, like how to have those conversations, and that to get practice in having those conversations before you're in that situation.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, you don't need to be practicing on clients. You
Exactly.
know what I mean?
Yeah, but a lot of
totally.
folks do.
Yeah.
That's because we don't get that training necessarily.
Yeah,
and
no.
maybe we're not exposed to different types of communities. So
It's true.
yeah, so that's one thing. I'm sure I've learned a whole bunch of other things. But
Yeah, language is important. What language we use, what language is even available to use. That's, anyway, language is interesting in how it can communicate power too. Yeah, fascinating stuff.
I think I have one more, but I think it's going to come through. No, not right now.
Are you sure?
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's go to V.
V is vision. Visioning.
I love that one.
Visioning. Yeah.
What's important about, like, how do you, kids and vision, like?
What's coming to me right now is, like, this idea that when needs are met and you've sort of, like, done the groundwork of the safety and the connection in the room, then what can come through is, like, really powerful, imaginative, creative ideas that can be a part of the vision for this planet, for whatever you want to apply it to. So it might be different things, but like I think about the work I'm doing with my small group right now, which is the project that we're working on this year is musical theater. So that's fantastic.
Awesome.
It's so fantastic. But my group has rewritten the Three Billy Goats gruff.
Okay.
And so there's no more goats in it, and they've become characters. And
is goats a bad thing though? Why are there no more goats in it?
Because they wanted to pick their own characters.
Okay, I just was wondering.
No,
like, is
goats
it like
are
a goat
great.
thing? I didn't know.
Well, you missed it. Before there were these words, there were a bunch of pictures of goats because we were learning a little bit about goats. But
Okay,
anyway.
so you're taking the story.
So
the
we're
kids
taking
didn't
the
want
story,
goats. They're
and
like,
the kids
let's
are
do-
like, I'm going to be a fox, and I'm
Okay.
going to be a donut machine, and I'm going to be a firefighter. And we have just, great. So they're, anyway, so we're rewriting a story, which A is so cool because it teaches them that they can rewrite a story. Like, right?
That's so
yeah,
powerful,
so
right?
amazing.
It's like, so fundamental to like, yeah.
And then, like, I kind of, like, just, like, the visioning is, like, what just, like, comes through them. Like, they come through this stuff. And, like, so we talked a lot about the story, and we talked a lot about the troll. And one of the kids was like, I think that a police officer needs to, like, go and take the troll away because that troll is not making good choices. And I was like, well, let's, like, talk about this a little bit more. Like, why do you think the troll isn't making good choices? And so they started coming up with all these ideas of why isn't the troll making good choices? Well, he lives under a bridge. It's probably not that comfortable. I bet he's really hungry. Like, oh, I bet he's cold and it's damp and all of this stuff. So then they start to imagine this life of a troll. And so I'm like, well, what do you want to do about it? And they're like, well, actually, the donut machine's like, I'll make him donuts.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
Great. I mean, I'm not making this up. They come to me and they say things like, we're the troll's family now, and we're going to hang out with the troll, and he's going to go to Roots and Fruits Preschool. We'll teach him how to farm, and he'll get the eggs from the chickens so he doesn't have to eat us, you know? And it's just, it's like, that's their visioning. They're visioning for the world, for what's possible. And at this age, like, it's not really limited. It's just so beautiful to see.
Right,
so,
and it just like wasn't so sticky to shift gears out of like,
No,
let's
it
go get
wasn't
the
hard at
police
all.
officer, which of course is like, that's what we're taught. Like when something bad is happening, you get the police officer, but you were like, hey, what else? And it was just like, that's the only thing that needed to happen.
Well, and here's what else is cool. To them, they still don't have this idea that a police officer is they don't have all these connotations necessarily. Some of them do, but they're able to switch gears and also say like, well, what should the police officer be doing? And reimagining like even ways that justice and accountability happen, you know? So there's the visioning that happens at this age is just like incredible.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
So you guys have rewritten it, and is it a play?
Now we're turning it into a play, and then I also got this other idea.
I love that. We share this sort of like,
I'm like,
many idea.
well, so I just went to Goddard for a residency, and my advisor is Norwegian, and the Billy Goat Scruff is a Norwegian folk tale. And she was telling me the real folk tale. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, because in the Norwegian version, the goats are actually the ones that sort of embody this like gluttony. They're going to cross the bridge and they're going to eat up all the grass from the land. And they're actually quite violent to the troll. And so I started thinking like, oh, like we could write another part of the play or another part of the story about the troll's point of view. And maybe from the troll's point of view, these people are coming over, they already have enough. They're going to cross this bridge and go take something that I need. And let's like talk about, you know, colonialism from the perspective of 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. So it's just like
mind-blowing.
Yeah,
Right, you're talking about colonialism. Like, that's so powerful.
yeah. So
That's amazing. Right, because these are all the things that are in our psyche.
totally. And then what's so cool is that they're going to find a way. Like, I have no doubt they're going to be like, oh, well, let's just turn it around and make a different choice then. And so then they'll have these two stories from two different perspectives of each kind of perspective making different choices around how to react in a situation that's unjust in some capacity. So
Right. So it's not even just one.
It's not even just
so
one.
it's not like replicating. There's one narrative. It's
Right.
like, oh look, we're gonna rewrite this a couple of ways
yeah,
and get to see
Yep.
like, oh, so there's always many solutions,
Yep.
right? That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that. I'm
that's
so
what
glad
I'm
we
doing
just.
right now.
I know. I
Yeah.
hope we can get a video of that.
Oh, it'll be out there. My next project, I'm trying to get everything. I want all their stuff to get published so it can be out to the world. Yeah.
Great.
So maybe in a couple of years, you'll see Roots and Fruits Press.
Love it.
We'll see.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's finish up Radical Love with E.
Empowerment.
Yeah.
If all those things happen, you're going to feel awfully empowered. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for going through Radical Love.
Okay.
What have you, so I want to ask, like, there's so many questions I want to ask, but like, one question I have is, have you had a chance to watch some of the kids that have gone through this school, sort of like, I mean, a lot of the kids from this school are going into public school after this, right? And so that's a different environment. You know, what are some of the longer term impacts that, I mean, this is probably a question for Virginia too, and Virginia, if you want to comment, because I think I saw you that you're watching, which is awesome. What are some of like the longer, like are kids able to hold on to some of these qualities and values and practices even when they sort of go to a school that maybe isn't practicing those things?
I think it depends on the kid. I mean, I don't have that answer in, this is my 4th year here. My kid went here.
Oh, cool.
So I can talk, you know, from that lens.
Perfect.
And some of the kiddos that I've stayed in touch with. But it's interesting too because I think sometimes what happens is like kids have come through here and then their siblings come through here and there's a lot of like connection that remains with families. We also have summer camps that kids come back, so there's like a lot of ongoing connection with a lot of the families. Yeah, so Chester came here when he was 4. It was my first year teaching, and now he's in 2nd grade. And I mean, I can't say, like, I use a lot of this language at home too. So we talk about making good choices and bad choices and turning it around, and some of the mindfulness tools that he's used here. And yeah, he'll like use them in different ways that sometimes surprise me. Like he'll be maybe worked up about something and then just like out of the blue, like he will just be like, I'm actually going to go meditate, excuse me. I'm like, God. Okay, great, cool. But you know, so definitely things last in some way. And I'd be curious to find out, like, ooh, here's a chance for a longitudinal study.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
So
if there's any researchers out there, somebody wants a project, this would be an amazing place to do it. Yeah, absolutely. So, great.
Yeah.
Let's just shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And I don't know if you have anything to say about this right now, but Somatic Experiencing, you've done a couple of years of the training, you've been integrating it into your work here, you're a parent. And is there anything you could say about, like, what's one tool from Somatic Experiencing that you think is relevant for parenting?
Oh, just one. Parenting is, like, the most challenging job I have ever had. Shout out to the parents watching. Y'all are doing a way better job than you think you are, chances are.
Nice.
So, I mean, like for me personally, what's been really awesome is just having an understanding of the human nervous system and what it looks like for myself or my kiddo to be activated and to kind of have a lot of energy going on, and then what it looks like to be grounded and calm, and to like think about ways that like I as a parent sort of I set the container in a lot of ways for how my kid can experience his emotions. And when kids are young, they look to their parents to say like, oh, is this safe? Is this good? Like I think I said in the beginning, in a lot of the ways, like I can walk into a room and a kid will just know, you know, is it a good day or is it a bad day? They'll know, is this a safe circumstance? Is it not? You know, just by the parent or the person, you know, the adults, like,
yeah, we're wired that way.
Yeah, that's how humans are.
Yeah, to feel what somebody else is feeling.
So I think like what I'm interested in doing and what I'm just kind of starting out doing is actually offering some like one-on-one consultations with parents, just to give them some tools to learn how to kind of ground themselves and stay grounded when a kiddo is pretty, you know, activated.
Let's talk about that. How do you do that?
For me personally, identifying resources, things in your body that kind of calm you down. For me, sometimes it's just feeling my feet on the ground. And I'm a very visual person, so I like to have like visualizations while I'm breathing of like blue flowing through my body, like water flowing through my body. And then a lot of it too is like self-care when I'm anytime I can. So I've discovered like I really need to work out like almost every day, even if it's just for like 20 minutes. I really need to like sweat and get that like
extra
energy out. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's different for everyone, of course, but just helping parents find what those couple of things are that they can utilize for themselves.
Right, in the effort to stay grounded and to be able to stay grounded, especially in maybe a situation that it would be really easy to get more reactive.
Sure, absolutely.
Which, you know, you guys deal with all the time.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else around somatic experiencing and your journey that you'd like to share that feels important?
I've been on a long journey with somatic experiencing. It's been, I think that the tools are phenomenal. Like I haven't found something else that I don't know, that feels so transformative for me personally in my life. And I am just gonna be like pretty much in my practice as an educator, as a parent, and as a somatic practitioner, just like remaining curious around how we can use the tools of somatic experiencing in larger ways in like institutions and groups, and maybe in some of the movements we're creating now. And I also am really interested in like having some more art programming, maybe even here at Roots and Fruits in the next year or two, to really, I need to move, I like to dance, I like to sing, I like to be silly with people and play, and so just creating spaces where we can be embodied beings together.
Beautiful.
Is important to me. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say about like this sort of moment on the planet and all of the intense activation and fear that people are feeling? I'm sure you all are having some of that show up here at the school and with the families that go here.
Absolutely.
And I know that Virginia really does great work around this. And I don't know, is there anything like to parents out there, to people out there, like a tool or a thing that you just want to say that feels like a piece of wisdom for these times that are so intense?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I want to say that there is a lot going on right now. There's a lot of fear running through people, and some of it is old fear that's getting re-triggered, and some of it is real. And doing some work to sort of figure out what's what, I think is important. And I also want to say, I guess that I personally, and I think the folks here at Roots and Fruits are wanting to create space for people to explore how we can be with each other, be in community, protect each other, love each other to the fullest extent possible, and find transformational healing in that. And I think we're at this critical time where everything's heightened, and all this fear is heightened, and all this negativity is heightened, and there's also this heightened opportunity. And the opportunity is to show up for radical love, and to start expanding the possibilities on this planet that that no longer show up as like us and them, and that shows up in like real unity and real revolution and real turning it around. And I think I feel called to do my own work, like in a really deep way. And I think there's a lot of ways to show up, and I know a lot of people right now are all about like taking outward action, and I do think that's really important, but I also think it's really important we show up for ourselves in this time. And in showing up for myself, I can show up for you, and I can show up for maybe one of you. And I think that we need to do that right now. We need to show up for ourselves and show up for each other and be real and authentic in connection with each other. I don't have answers about how this is going to get better, but I think collectively we do, and we can.
And part of what it starts with is caring for self and caring for other, and like a real authentic dropping in.
Absolutely, like mind, body, spirit showing up. So it's time to show up, and I want to support that showing up. So
awesome.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah,
I can really feel that. So awesome. Well, you know, Gina and Virginia and this school have been a really integral part of my path. Look at all the sweethearts you're getting.
Oh, I see my sweetie wrote something.
Hello. Oh, hey. These guys have been integral. These girls, not girls, this place, these amazing people here have been integral in my journey, especially at times where I have been on the edge and wanting to literally like lose my cookies over right and wrong. And so I just want to thank this place for holding down the deep root of radical love and the possibility of not slipping into dualism, not slipping into either or, not slipping into right and wrong. And it's such a powerful practice. And I just think this school is holding down a wisdom. I mean, it's like lifting up a wisdom, and it's acknowledging a wisdom that's so deep and so old, and it's had such an impact on so many people in our community in such an incredible way, in such a transformational way. So it's really an honor to be here, and I'm so happy to help, show the world like some of the great work you're doing. You want to say anything to that?
I have a couple things I want to say.
Great.
Actually.
Yeah.
Can I give some gratitude?
Yeah.
I want to give some gratitude to Virginia and to Nadia Said-Wasant, who I would not be embodying radical love in the same way without you. So those two people have been just like tip-top in holding me up to show up for my best self and to make the best choices I can. And then I want to say that there's something else you wanted to say.
Oh, no, I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it'll probably be tomorrow. It'll go, ooh. No, I got it. I'm good. No, just happy to be here.
Okay.
Thank you for coming back to us. Like, good teacher.
Yeah, I see.
But we're just about at time, so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me.
Y'all, thank you. Thank you to Gina Forbes. Thank you to Roots and Fruits, Virginia, and the bigger spirit and the ancestors of this land. Just beautiful work, y'all. Keep showing up. Keep getting present with each other. Just do the best we can, right? Love you so much. Tomorrow, I should be on with Lisa Newell. It's sort of a maybe, so I may or may not be on. And if not, then we get a day off, which is totally cool too.
Yeah.
So take care. Have a great night. Anything else you want to say? Oh, happy birthday, Dad!
Oh, hey!
Dad, happy birthday!
What's his name?
Dave.
Happy birthday, Dave!
All right, you guys. I'll call you in a little bit, Dad. Love you guys.
All right.
Night.
Bye.